When you published your book, why did you do it? You do it just for your health, just as an exercise, just to get the words out? Well, heck no. You did it because you wanted to help others, right? You wanted to get your message out there, and you wanted to hook someone with the problem, with the idea, and then walk them through a journey containing your stories, your struggles, your problems, and your advice and your solutions. So that way, by the time someone gets to the end of your book, then they want to contact you. And by that logic, it makes sense for you to put your book out on as many platforms as possible. That's why if you're a published author, you didn't just put your book out there digitally on Kindle. If you had the chance, you also put it out there in paperback form. And the best bang for your buck, aside from having your book on Amazon on Kindle digitally, aside from having your book out there as a paperback, is also to have your book in audiobook form. And I guarantee you that if you look at any of the popular books, I'm talking about books on Amazon with over 1,000 or 2,000 reviews or more, ones that are written by people like Oprah or politicians or celebrities, there's always an audiobook version of it. And that alone is a reason why you need to have your book out there in audiobook form. And most authors I talk to, they want it. They want an audiobook out there based on their book, but they have all these reasons, all the excuses why they haven't done it or why they can't do it. And the number one excuse is I need to be the one who narrates my own book. And then I say, well, I understand that, but I see that you don't have your own book out there and you haven't had the time so far to do it. You haven't gone down the rabbit hole of buying all the equipment and figuring out the software and the production and all the rules. So what if my wife and I took care of that for you? My name is Robert Plank from dfynarration.com, and I would love to narrate your audiobook for you. And I want to tell you a few things to know about your audiobook that maybe a lot of people don't tell you. And the first thing, like we said, is, well, shouldn't I be the one to narrate my book? And that's a great exercise in vanity, and that will make you feel really good about yourself once it's done. But here's the question. Does Stephen King narrate his own books? Does J.K. Rowling narrate her own books? Does George R.R. Martin narrate her own books? Well, the answer is no. And if you think about the books that you've read or listened to that really changed your life, like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, books like that, they weren't narrated by the author. They were narrated by some other narrator. And honestly, you probably didn't even notice that. You probably didn't even care or look into who the narrator specifically was. So I would say to you that the voice behind it and the narrator is sort of invisible. I think it doesn't really matter that much. What does matter is you and your message and your words and your book being on multiple platforms. In the same way that it's good to have a Kindle and to have a paperback, you should also be on Audible. Now, Audible is Amazon's audiobook subdivision. Audible is owned by Amazon. And what I can do is take your book, take your written PDF or Word document manuscript, and work my magic and narrate into the microphone and read the words and process it in a special way and log into your site and upload it in a special way. So that way it ends up on Audible, it ends up on Apple Books, and it's on your Amazon page. And there's a new button that will appear next to the other buttons where you see your book and it says like purchase on Kindle, purchase on paperback. There will also be a space where it now will say purchase in audiobook. And someone can grab your audiobook for maybe $12 or $15. And when someone searches your keyword of choice, right? Say you have a weight loss book, say you have a real estate book. If someone searches a phrase like that in Google, how many results will show up? Millions. If someone searches that in Amazon, how many results will show up? Hundreds of thousands. But if someone searches something like real estate or weight loss on Audible, the results will be much less. There's much less competition. So that's one more way for someone to find you, another platform for you to be on. All this appears in additional SEO search results. So there's more places that you rank for. And something else a lot of people don't think about is that some people are just plain listeners, right? There's a saying of, there's something like, if you listened to audiobooks during the average American commute, which is about 20 minutes. So 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week for 3 years, you would have the same amount of information as a 2-year college degree. And another shocking fact is like 30 or 40% of adults, after they're done with school, high school, or college, they don't read another book again in their entire lives. And so if someone is out there still reading and still listening to audiobooks, those are people that you want to get in front of. And if you're only available in print written format, you're missing out on this new podcaster generation. You think about the people that listen on their smart speakers, listen on their phones, listen on those smart radios in their cars. They can tune into satellite radio, or they can tune into podcasts, or they can now tune in to audiobooks. And in this day and age of audiobooks, it's wonderful because of the cloud. Someone can buy your book and listen to a piece on their browser, listen to a piece on their phone, listen to a piece on their smart speaker, listen on their tablet, on their car, and it's all tracked, and they can just, wherever they're at, they can pick it right back up and listen to those next few minutes when they're in the bathroom or they're exercising or they're driving, and they can listen to you and your audiobook. And they can even, I think on Amazon, there's some kind of feature where they can listen to part of the audiobook, and then if they have the Kindle version, it'll jump to that page in how far they've listened, and they can switch back and forth and just use whatever it takes to eke forward and finish your book in whatever way that they can. And so you should allow me or my wife to narrate your audiobook for the simple fact that you haven't done it yet, and I'm not sure if you will find the time to do it. And so the question, and of course, in a perfect world, you would be the one to narrate it, and it can just be your voice and everything. But a lot of authors that I've met, they don't have the time, or they've tried and started and given up, or even worse, they've narrated a whole book and it just was not usable. It was not properly recorded and was not accepted by Audible. So my wife and I have each narrated over 600 books. We know what we're doing. We know the process. We love doing it. We love kind of this thing we talked about how adults don't read enough. We both like to read and narrate, and it kind of gets the words in, and we love all these diverse sorts of topics. We love narrating business books. We love narrating self-help books, but we're also interested in many of the other books that we have, from personal fitness to psychology and mindset and success and things like that. We have narrated cookbooks. You can go on Audible and search for whatever niche you're in. And so we've both narrated different cookbooks. We've narrated different workbooks. And if you're curious about what we narrate, you can search on Audible for my name, Robert Plank, or her name, Catherine O'Connor. That's Catherine with a C and then O apostrophe Connor. And so we would love to narrate your audiobook. And what do you need in order to do that? Well, you first need, no matter what, your book to be published on Amazon Kindle. Because the way it works is we narrate your book, and then when it comes time to send it to Audible, we have to log in into your account and claim your book and link it to your existing book. So there's no such thing as just an audiobook. You have to have your book published, and then we also have the audiobook form that is linked to that. And then if you were to narrate the audiobook yourself, what you would need is a decent microphone and a quiet room to record in. You would need recording software, and you would need to record a few of the special minutia that Audible requires. They require something called opening credits, which means that you speak out the title, subtitle, author name, narrator name, the copyright holder of the book, and then who has the copyright for the audiobook. So that's a special little 15-second audio file they want at the beginning that just has some of those credits. And then they would like you to narrate every chapter of your book, each in a separate audio file. So your introduction, that's one audio file, and you say introduction, and then you say the length of the chapter. Then they want you to, for chapter 1, to say chapter 1 and the name of that chapter, and then the length of that audio file. And they have a couple of different special audio processing requirements, like they want about a second of pause of space at the beginning, and then 1 to 5 seconds of pause at the end. And they want the audio levels to be equalized in a certain way. And that is why you can't use just any microphone or just any recording software, because there's all these special processing and levels that need to be done. So you do that for all those chapters. And then they also want you to record something called the closing credits, which is almost the same as the opening credits. You say the title, subtitle, author, narrator, copyright information. Then they want you to record something called the retail sample. And when someone is searching for audiobooks on Audible and they find your title, then, instead of a book, we call it a title. So it's your audiobook. Instead of saying audiobook book, we say audiobook title. And then when someone is scrolling through that, then there's a little sample button where they can click and listen to 1 to 5 minutes of a sample of your book. And most of the time, what we do, like 90% of the time, we read your existing Amazon page synopsis for your book. So you know how you have your book on Amazon and there's like the title and the cover, and then there's like a blurb, there's a description about like what your book is about. So more often than not, we just read those words, and then that becomes the audio version of that, the retail sample. And speaking of covers, another thing that needs to be done is to get your book cover kind of resized and changed into a square. So if you go on Audible and you scroll down, you see that the books are not horizontal or rectangular like a regular book. They're square, almost like a CD. And so we don't even need anything from you. We can take your existing book cover and kind of change it into a square. And one tricky thing that you might run into if you're doing all this yourself is that your book cover needs to be a square, but then they need like a little corner free on the bottom right side to sometimes say like, 10% off for this month. They want to have a little like corner on the edge to be able to put in their own extra banner. And so you can understand that there's some of this little minutia like this, right? There's these little things that need to be done as far as narrating the proper credits, spending time to narrate all the chapters, processing in it a certain way, opening credits, closing credits, retail sample, and the special cover. And then to even just to give you the whole recipe, to tell you everything that needs to be done, then what you would do is register an account at a site called acx.com. And then you'd log in, you'd claim your book, you'd put in this cover, you'd upload all these audio files, and then you'd send it into Audible. And they take 10 business days, they take 2 weeks to approve your audiobook. And if you have any one of these little things wrong, they will kick it back to you within usually like 2 or 3 or 4 days. And so sometimes there is something wrong with the audio. There might be a mouse click issue. Like if you click your mouse anywhere in there, then they really don't like that. And they also don't like if your name, if your title, subtitle, or author on the cover does not match the spoken credits or does not match the written credits on your book. So that's something where when we do this narration, we make sure that your book cover matches everything else. And that's something that alone holds so many authors back. So like I said, there's some authors out there that have a half-done audiobook and it's getting in their way. So wouldn't it be a lot better if you just paid us the one-time fee and got it done? And then you say, okay, well then what? What happens if my audiobook is then live? Well, once your audiobook is live, as we said, you're listed on Audible, Apple Books, and a button next to your Amazon page, and you should promote it just like any other book. And I'm reluctant to say this, but anecdotally, my Audible book sales equal just about my Kindle book sales. So if I have a $500 a month on Amazon, it's a $500 a month on Audible. If I have a $100 a month on Amazon, it's a $100 a month on Audible. Now with Audible, the price point is higher. So instead of your books being 99 cents and you get like 20 cents commission for that book, then on Audible, the prices are more like $8 to $12 and your commissions are more like $2 to $5. And here's something that gets so many authors in a tizzy, is that one of those rules of Audible is that you can't set the price. People are always geeking out about, oh, well, I've got my book and I want to make it $14.95. But on Audible, you don't really have control. The longer your book is, the higher they will price it. So your Audible book might be like $8.95 or $14.95 or $12.95. They, like if your book is like 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 hours, they kind of price it at these different tiers. But there are also monthly subscribers to Audible. That's most of their customers, people who are paying, I believe, about $15 a month to get these credits. And if you're anything like me, I'm always piling up the credits because sometimes I'm listening to like an 8 or a 20-hour book, and the next thing I know, I have like 6 credits, and I'm like, "Well, I need to go and find 6 audiobooks to spend my special credits on before they run out, before I hit the ceiling on that." So, there are these monthly Audible subscribers that use credits, and when someone uses one of their monthly credits, then Audible will pay you for that, but you don't really have control over your price or how much they give you, but it's roughly about $2 to $5 per sale for your audiobook. And there is less sales compared to the book, but a higher price. And so just in all my years of putting out, I've published 15 books of my own, and I've narrated about 600 of other people's audiobooks. My wife has narrated about 600 as well. What we've seen is that the Audible monthly paycheck just about equals the Amazon monthly paycheck, but don't quote me on that. It's just a story. So then the next thing that we want to be talking about as far as your audiobook is how long will it take for it to be narrated? Well, the average audiobook that we like to narrate is about 30,000 words. That is about 3 or 3.5 hours. And it takes us 10 to 30 days to narrate the book, depending on how busy we are. Usually we say about 22 days is what we promise, but the longer your book is, the longer it will take us to narrate. So if your book is on the longer side, if it's getting more like 50,000 words and it's like 6 or 7 hours long, it might take us closer to 1 month to get it done, just to sort of set your expectations there. And then once your audiobook is live on Audible, then you just promote it like you would any other book, right? You go on podcasts, you post on social media, you tell your list about it, you tell your friends to get it. Now, Audible has a special area where you can go in and track your sales and see how it's doing month to month. But you can also get these special things called promo codes, which are one-time use codes, and you can get a handful of them and tell your friends, go to this link and paste in this code, and they can get a copy of your audiobook for free, and that will register in the search rankings as people are interested in your book. So that's a fun thing to do to market it. But in general, you should just market your audiobook the same way you do your book, because it will cross-pollinate, as they say. Is that many times I've gone on Audible to look up a book, and then if I see a book on Audible, I think, well, I'd rather just read it and flip through it, and I go and find the Amazon version, and vice versa. Someone searches on Amazon for your book, and they take special extra notice, seeing that it's an audiobook, they're an audiobook listener, and then they go and click it there as well. Now, I guess there's 2 final things that I wanted to think about, because when I talk to people on sales calls and things like this, they ask, well, how did you get started? And we just kind of got started in voiceover, and it led to narrating audiobooks for others. We ended up liking it, and it's a fun way to kind of get that reading itch in and to connect with other authors. But then people ask, well, what are the questions that I'm not asking you, right? What are you not thinking about as far as an audiobook? And here it is, 2 things. So the one is that when you put your audiobook online, or when it's time for us to do this, what the process is that you pay us the upfront fee, and then we have a form for you to fill out. You give us your audiobook manuscript, and then within 24 hours, we send you the first 15-minute chunk for you to say it's okay. And then once that's okay, then we narrate the rest of the audiobook, and then we say, okay, it's time to put this on Audible. And what we have you do is you pass us your login and password to Audible, and then we log in. And what it will do many times is send you a special code on your phone that you pass to us for just that one-time login to let us in and upload your book. So I wanted to tell you that ahead of time. That's part of our process. And if you're not comfortable with that, we can do other things like meet on Zoom. And then the other thing that a lot of people don't think about, it's really a minor issue, but it's something for you to maybe mull over in your head as you contact us, which is at dfynarration.com. Here's the final thing to think about is, do you want to have your audiobook exclusive or non-exclusive to Audible? And I would recommend you just make it exclusive, just because that way it's done, it's on some other platform. But some people have big, grand dreams for their audiobook, and that's okay. And so here's what exclusive or non-exclusive means for Audible. If your book is exclusive to Audible, then they will give you 40% commission or royalty, right? So they will give you a little bit more if you say, I'm only on the Audible platform, which means Audible, Apple Books, and Amazon. And if you want to be non-exclusive to Audible, then we can check that box. And when you're non-exclusive to Audible, they only give you 25% royalties, which isn't that much of a decrease, really. And by being non-exclusive to Audible, then you can also sell your audiobook on your website. You can put your audiobook in full on YouTube, which some people do. And what's really exciting is if you ask us about this when it comes time to order, we can put your book on 42 additional platforms. So in addition to things like Audible and Apple Books and Amazon, we can also get your book listed on Nook, which is Barnes & Noble's audiobook marketplace. We can get you listed on Google Books, on Spotify, on Walmart, on all these other places. And that's what we can do for you if you want to put your audiobook non-exclusive on Audible. I really personally don't think it makes much difference. I think that either you make this amount from being exclusive to Audible, or if you're non-exclusive, you make slightly less, but you make up the difference by being on all these other platforms. And in the authors I've known, their actual paycheck doesn't make much difference, exclusive or non-exclusive. So that's just when people ask, like, what's the one question that no one asks or that no one's thinking about? It's that. It's a very minor issue, exclusive or non-exclusive to Audible. And then the thing that people freak out about that is not important is that you can't set the price on Audible. It's just listed at whatever it's listed at. But bottom line, you haven't had the time so far to narrate your audiobook. You haven't had the equipment or figured out the software or figured out all the little audio rules to get your book on Audible. So find us at dfynarration.com. I narrate, my wife narrates, so we can do male narration or female narration of your book. There have been times when we've done kind of a little bit of both. Like some books have male and female chapters, and we've done that maybe 6 or 7 times in the last few years. So we're open to that as well. But let's just get it done. Let's just get your audiobook out there. And it's really tempting to say, I need to be the one to narrate my audiobook. But if your audiobook doesn't even exist, then who is that helping? And it's definitely not helping the people that you want to help. And it's not helping you because people are not finding your book in these kind of lesser competitive marketplaces like Audible. And I'm telling you, look at the popular books that are out there, and you'll see there is an Audible audiobook button as well. So I'm Robert Plank from dfynarration.com. I would love to narrate your audiobook and put it on Audible for you, do the whole process so that way it's just done for you. All you need is your existing book, and I'll narrate it regardless of length. Let's talk soon, dfynarration.com. Bye for now.